Land fragmentation is a very serious issue in Pakistan. It is not only impacting the productivity, that means a decrease or less productivity, which is already a challenge, but also posing quite a lot of challenges in managing the arable lands or lands that are fertile and productive. For example, the externalities such as the climate change impacts, the loss of water availability, and many other external factors that are impacting our agriculture productivity are in a way exaggerated through the land fragmentation, because the smallholder farmers, which are majority in our country, on average we have about 1 to 2 hectares of land owned by more than 70% farmers in Pakistan. That is a serious issue now. How do we aggregate the land holdings and make those productive? In terms of the reasons or the causes for this land fragmentation, the most important is of course the inheritance laws and the practices as well, not just the law, because most of the times people do want to divide these lands and then they are fragmented into smaller and smaller pieces, and over a period of time we have seen this as a drastic impact on the land fragmentation. One way to mitigate this challenge could be the encouragement or enabling framework, where we work with the smallholder farmers that even if they are fragmented through the inheritance, that means the ownership is fragmented, the land use does not necessarily have to be fragmented. And in that there are different models that one could use. For example, we can use the cooperatives at the village level. Now that word might sound a bit objectionable, but there is a total business case and business sense in that system. We can have the production or the productivity cooperatives where they do at a larger, where they produce at a larger scale for a certain crop. That will give an impact of the collective action. So in this case, what I'm saying is that we need aggregators in the rural areas, not just for the offtake or for the crops when they are harvested, but the aggregators who could either finance in form of contract farming or in another sense encourage through the government incentive schemes at the production level as well. So that is quite important. Secondly, probably we can put a bit of premium on the offtake. For example, when the government procures wheat from these farmers, if it is sold in a certain quantity or beyond a certain quantity, that could be incentivized in terms of the higher prices. So that would also encourage the farmers to aggregate their lands and not really work on the fragmented pieces of land. Another solution that one could think would be to give the incentives through the inputs, for example, on the seeds, fertilizers, and more importantly, the farm machinery such as the tractors at the concessional rates, which could be, let's say, funded by the government institutions, that if you use those inputs and machinery at a larger scale, for example, 50 acres plus, you would get a concessional rate or a subsidy. In this case, the farmers would be encouraged to aggregate their land holdings and then remove these possible negative impacts of the land fragmentation. And then more importantly, for the high value crops, for example, the horticulture, fruits and vegetables, it makes a perfect sense to achieve the economies of scale. Therefore, it is extremely important and imperative that we work with all of the farming sector through the either they are corporate sector or the smallholder farmers, through the private sector partners in the agriculture area, and also the relevant government departments, the funding institutions, the banks, and so on and so forth, to encourage the aggregation of land. I'm not advocating the aggregation at the ownership, but aggregation at the production, so that we can have an efficiency and achieve the productivity and increase in agri-food systems that is extremely needed for Pakistan's food security. Thank you.